Love to heal a nation is the greatest power. A wind of destruction is blowing over this land. And now the earth is trembling with man's oppression of man. Now the time come to sit down and rediscover what's life. Show the world the true meaning of real love, power, not strife. Put a hand on the fire and cleanse the wicked right now. All of them who does worship, greed and vanity must bow. Unity is the banner, so come together, I say. And this love is for freedom, it's growing stronger each day. Bring down the power of love, I say. The power of love, I say, is the greatest power. Stop hell and damnation. Love to heal a nation. So rejoice in a rhythm of celebration. Come on. Lift your voice with a feeling of satisfaction as one. And let we move with a purpose, all freedom lovers. Hold tight. Stepping out of the darkness with one direction inside. Bring down the power of love, I say. The power of love, I say, is the greatest power. Stop hell and damnation. Love to heal a nation is the greatest power.
Hello and welcome to ANU Asafo. Brother Wole is here, and with me is my crew, Brother Ifawumi and Sister Omilade. Welcome to ANU Asafo. Here is our African pledge. We are African people. We will remember the humanity, glory, and suffering of our ancestors. We will honor the struggles of our elders. We will strive to bring new values and new life to our people. We will have peace, harmony, and love among ourselves, and we will be loving, sharing, and creative. We will work, study, and listen, so we may learn so that we may teach. We will cultivate self-reliance, and we will raise many children. We'll have discipline, patience, devotion, and courage. We will live as models to provide new direction for our people. Free and self-determining, we are an African people, and we will win. We will win. Hotep. This is Brother Ifa Wumi. We will talk about what's on the agenda today, and that includes a cultural spotlight on the Southern Hoodoo roots and Voodoo traditions. Brother Ifa Wumi is going to lead us in that. We're going to talk about divination within our segment this morning on, well, it's actually this afternoon, 5 minutes in New Orleans. Our segment on divination. We are hoping that Brother Ifa Wumi, he's in South Carolina, and they're having, Oya has come to visit. And they're having tremendous weather there, and it's expected for the next 3 days. But we're going to proceed and hope that he continues to try to recall in and get a good connection. But most of all, we are pleased and privileged today to be sitting down with the Chief Jegna of the ANU Nation and Sedulu House. And that, of course, is Haruya Asan Anu. He will be taking calls, questions from students as well as non-students who have written and sent the questions in by way of the Sedulu House .com website. But also, people can call in. I understand the number is 347 I'm going to check that number because I don't want to give the wrong one. But we've had that happen before. But before we go any further, there's been some things happening in the news recently. And Brother Ifa Wumi and I were up late into the night last night considering if we should just move along with the program as was planned, or if we needed to make at least a recognition, if not a statement or announcement, about these shootings and what they may mean to our immediate future as a nation, but particularly as an Ifa Orisha Pan African spirituality based community. Just some of the shootings involved. Recently, according to Tracy Connor, who's a staff writer at the NBC News, recently an 11-year-old New Orleans girl rocking her baby cousin to sleep was killed in a triple shooting in her house, sitting in her house watching TV Monday night. Now, this had happened while the city is still reeling from the murder of a one-year-old gunned down in her babysitter's arms only 4 days earlier, and that was last week. New Orleans is definitely a killing field. In this latest violence, gunmen reportedly started shooting inside of a home where at least 4 young children were in bed shortly after midnight, firing more than a dozen bullets. That's what's going on nightly in New Orleans. And in Chicago, the Chicago Tribune reports at least 23 people were shot, including 3 fatally in attacks in Chicago early this morning and Thursday night. This is what authorities have said. Now, doing a single shooting Thursday night at about 10:15 p.m. In the backyard, in the back of the Yards neighborhood, 13 people, including a 3-year-old boy, were shot in Cornell Square Park. Now, this has been getting a lot of press recently, probably basically because of the intent of the function. It was intended to help create harmony in a gang-infested area between two of the city's heavily patrolled areas. One, I understand, was 3 blocks to the north, and I think the other was 3 blocks to the west or the south of that area. And they described that playground area as a no man's land. As a no man's land. This is how neighborhoods in Chicago, some of the neighborhoods in Chicago, what they're dealing with when they're not extended police protection. They have they're living in what is called a no man's land. I guess somebody might call that city partially a no man's city. Well, anyway, Joaquin Noah, who's Chicago Bulls star forward center, and the son of Yannick Noah, who I think even to this day is one of the few French people to win the French Open tennis championship in the modern era, and on top of that, he's a brother. So Yannick is down there in no man's land, trying to help brothers and sisters, doing clinics in basketball. And somebody opens fire. Now, what is particularly interesting about this case is the type of weapon that was used. Semi-automatic. The bullets found matched those used with an AK-47. And officials are finally up in arms because they're saying, wait a minute, that type of caliber of weapon is too high for the ghettos of Chicago. That could hurt some unintended people, right? Right, Brother Ifa? Ifa Wumi, you there?
Yes, I'm right here, Brother Wale. I was just as shocked as everybody else in the nation about what happened. I just can't believe it, and especially by Chicago being the stomping ground of Obama, Jesse Jackson, Louis Farrakhan. You know, we have many of these self-appointed leaders who refusing or cannot solve Chicago's problems. Now, my idea is that it may be some type of covert operation. I'm flooding these type of weapons on the street. AK-47s are very powerful weapons. I really disagree with what the police superintendent had to say. He was saying that illegal guns drive violence. Illegal guns will not kill people. People kill people.
Right on, brother. Ashe. Brother Ifa, your heartfelt words are always right on point. And I know you had technical difficulties getting in today, and because of that, it's going to change our show a little bit. But you dropped heartfelt words last week in the section that you did on divination, and I'm not the only one who believes that because of the amount of feedback we've been getting. So we really want you to talk more about that, but at this point, because of these senseless killings, and of course we want to just mention the Nairobi Kenyan mall attack, where the death toll has hit 39, including reports of Americans injured. That's according to the Los Angeles Times. But we want to prepare and get ready to sit down with our Chief Jegna, Hoodoo ANU, and he's coming up right on the other side of this message, and he's going to field questions by students and non-students alike. So, Brother Yuya, please get ready, and Brother Ifawumi, please prepare to introduce him on the other side of this commercial break. Okay?
Okay, I will.
Unicorns, pearl paved pathways, sky so bright, the night no problem. When only positivity polluted the conscience, and something went wrong. My name is Insight. Let's go. Waterfall slows down, breeze, the sun leaves. Cumulus clouds overshadow the area. A cave head appeared with a glowing interior. Inferior primates appeared at the seashore. Search for the knowledge in a natural resource. Mind fire power in the force of a narrow path leads to sacred travelers that expanded to a huge community. Trees cloud down, make room for you and me. Machinery we use spread more pollution. Scientific breakthroughs form illusions. Positive intentions make the negative easy. See these from a spectacular species. Reach keys in life, mixing your own formula. Curing the conscious, develop the medicine. Practical principles expose better things. It's the God. Of your movement. It's the
Peace and blessings. It is my honor today to introduce our Chief Jegna, Hoodoo Asafo. Chief Yuya is very known throughout the globe. First of all, he is my teacher and my mentor. Yes, he is. Chief Yuya is also the administrator of Sadula House Spiritual Center. And also Chief Yuya has several different websites, ANUNation.org, Sadula House, OrishaReligion.com, and also he prepares us for our spiritual shift. His shows delve into the dark aspects of life-altering wisdom, and that show is entitled Enlightenment and Transformation, and that show is broadcast every Friday at 6:30 on Blog Talk Radio. And also, the illumination of soul enlightenment through occult studies and holistic health information. I'm so proud to introduce you to our Chief Jegna, my mentor, my teacher. Ladies and gentlemen, Hoodoo Asafo. Peace and blessings, Chief Yuya. Okay, well, I can continue to give our regular listeners more information on Chief Yuya. Excellent. Now, also, for those interested in taking our Hoodoo and a new spiritual order class, be sure to stop by SadulaHouse.org and register and send us an email stating your desire to take classes. Be on the lookout for an upcoming online classes series for those desiring to learn how to perform their own spiritual tasks, cleansing, psychic protection, measures, readings, and work for others. Hoodoo takes you through all steps required to become a priest or priestess for yourself and for others. I will repeat those websites again: ANUNation.org, Sadula House, and also OrishaReligion.com.
Thank you for dropping.
Greetings. That was beautiful, brother. Thank you so much for that greeting.
Thank you, Chief Yuya.
And I'm appreciative for being here today with you all. You're doing a wonderful job on, of course, shows prior, and this one has been no different, despite the attempt to lock down the light code transmission. Very thankful.
We thank you. We have offered, I understand that you're here to take questions today from students and non-students alike on a variety of issues.
That's correct.
Please, but before you proceed, would you give us a little fuller introduction of yourself than just what the brother was able to touch on? Will you tell us about your walk to your present destination?
Okay. Well, what I'll give, because when we did a masterful job in relaying the information, I think maybe I can give a little info that may feel maybe a little more, custom for the folks who are listening. So I'll say, first, for those who are listening and are seeking answers, are seeking a path, seeking a way, who I represent this time is an advanced traveler on that same path. Okay, so I don't use terms such as master or anything like that because I'm not done. This is an art. This is called the black arts or the spiritual arts, and art really cannot be mastered. It can be mangled, it can be deformed, it can be re-engineered, and as you move further and further through it, you master the mechanics of the actual art, but never really the creative expression. So I'm one who has, over many years of study and many different initiations and experiences, have really found certain modalities and a certain customized pedagogy that I've established in order to present spiritual information to people, and more so information to get people in a place of their highest ideas, to manifest their highest ideas, to be their highest selves. And that's a unique mission, journey, and expression for the unique individual. Everyone has their own ideas and their own perspective of what their highest ideas are. And what I do is I learn what that is from each individual, and then I learn how to bring that out in a very methodical way, and also teach them how to bring it out even further. So in many senses, what I do is a spiritual rites of passage that is ongoing, that is also infused with a heavy level of scholarship. And I've been doing that for many years now, but just through various systems, some religions, some spiritual systems, some social arenas. But, the mission has always pretty much been the same, to bring out the highest and the most meaningful expression, divine expression, in everyone who I've encountered. And I use a lot of different modalities to do that. Many people are familiar with me through the Yoruba system, but there are many other systems that I work with as well. I pretty much use whatever needs to be used in order to bring healing to the individual.
Well, Chief, I have a question here. And my question is, where do you foresee indigenous spirituality in the diaspora in the next 50 years? Or in the near future?
I see a blending of things. We speak about the diaspora because we really are connecting ourselves with the mother, and we're acknowledging that we came here. Well, some of us came here from somewhere else. But what I see with the proliferation of a certain amount of music that has already information that has already come forth, we're starting to learn now that we are actually global citizens, that we did exist here prior to Columbus, and that we were teaching and establishing traditions and doctrine for literally billions of years. Okay, so I think in the next 50 years and onward, what we'll be slowly and purposely discovering is that more than just diasporic transplants and hybrid Africans we are here in the diaspora. We are actually those who even returned to this land or who've been here the whole time, and we'll start bridging the gap more. We'll start bridging the connections between various traditions, as opposed to even looking at the traditions that are native to this land, North America, or even in the Caribbean. We'll start understanding much better that these are not traditions that we learned from people in an original place. These are traditions that we're learning from our former students. So when you have the Lakota tribe and the Lenape and they wear the feather, we'll understand better that this is the feather of Ma'at. So these were our students. When they build their medicine wheels and they place their stone in the east, because that's where their teachers come from, we'll understand that we are those teachers. So I would say traditional African spirituality in the diaspora 50 years forward will begin to look more like a reclaiming of global African spirituality.
Now, is the larger African or indigenous spiritual community ready to fully embrace a Pan-African spiritual focus to solve our historical problems and issues within our communities in the diaspora and on the continent?
Could I hear the first part of that question again?
Okay, it's the larger African or the indigenous spiritual community ready to fully embrace a Pan-African spiritual focus to solve our historical problems?
Absolutely not. Our historical problems are based on what some would like to call tribalism. But keep in mind the word tribal comes from tribulation. So it wasn't necessarily tribe against tribe, but more so a difference of idea began to set in over time. And this occurred before we came here. It wasn't a divide and conquer that the invaders did on the motherland. It was we were already divided, so they conquered. And they precipitated and fueled and amplified the disagreements and the divisions that we already had. So unfortunately, as we move forward, even for many of us reclaiming some of these ancient traditions, there's still a large degree of separation. There's still a large degree of, well, whose system is better than whose God is bigger than whose, and this level of division is something that has always been strong in our people since we've been here on this land, post chattel, post the Ma'afa, that level of division of where one wants to be one with someplace, another one wants to be another. So will the masses wake up to this Pan-African realization? Absolutely not. No. The masses are slowly blending themselves into a gray, amorphous blob of all inclusion with the oppressive culture, much commonly known as the Stockholm Syndrome. So you have many people who now don't even relate to an African reality. I've met people who, up until recently, who didn't even know that chattel slavery ever occurred, at all. They thought it was like a urban myth. And this was a grown 30-year-old person, and that's happened to me before. So, no, the nucleus is getting stronger. That's what's actually occurring. We're having a resurgence because of all of the fermentation, all of the rotting and the putrefaction of our traditions that's going on, because we've allowed so many skunks into the tradition. It's totally rotted itself. And now out of that rot and that fungus has come a new germ. And people like you and I, we are the new germ that is coming forth. And the new germ is always smaller than the greater area of rot and purification. So because of that, the new germ will lead the way to everyone else. So I don't feel there will be a mass global awakening, but there certainly is a global awakening. And just like the stars in the sky are millions of miles apart, away from each other, we have people who are hundreds of thousands of miles away from one another, but they're coming into the same collective reality and understanding. And I feel that will happen more and more as we move forward.
I'll understand that. Not shade. Now, our community is at war on both fronts, and something needs to be done. Now, solutions need to be tried that have never been tried before to save our next generation from annihilation. And what really will it take?
Well, the first thing that it's going to take is to understand and identify the R that you speak of and the nation that you speak of. That's step number one. Again, it goes back to the dangers of all-inclusiveness. If we look again at many of the people who we would desire to claim within our nation, and within our nation, many have become a new person. They become a new beast. There's a product that Western culture that has created. It's a brand new product, and it has a name to it. And we have to make a decision first if our work involves redeeming that product, claiming that product or allowing it just to waste away. So I think that's number one. We have to identify who is a part of that nation, and more importantly, there needs to be a unification of certain base ideas. A unification of certain base ideas. For instance, if you go to certain parts of the West, or if you go to certain parts of even, let's say, Europe, regardless of what country you go in, there's still the same cultural imperative. There's still the same social imperative to avoid genetic annihilation. So whether you're dealing with a Frenchman, or you're dealing with a German woman, or someone who is from Spain, or Russia, or wherever, the actions and the imperative remains the same, regardless of religious stance, regardless of language, regardless of dietary restrictions, so forth and so on. And there are certain core principles that we need to begin to see if we can anchor ourselves on. And if folks cannot anchor themselves on those core imperatives, very similar to the so-called Jews, how they always claim never again in reference to their Holocaust. Well, we have to, maybe that could be one principle, never again. Never again will we position ourselves where we can possibly be led into a place where we no longer have our liberties. And if we can have that as a guiding principle, it will start to form a better think tank and a better action agenda based on one or two principles. Never again will we be in that situation again. Never again will we allow our enemies to educate our children or train our children. Never again will we mistake our enemies for our friends. So identifying, I think identity of self, but identifying of your present physical, social, and political situation, and that awareness is step one.
Outstanding. And another question I have is, now being that you have an extensive background in youth development and mentorship, now can you share some of the corrective strategies to bridge the gap between African indigenous spirituality with our youth?
Okay. Well, the first thing we have to do is not seek to disinvalidate whatever our youth are currently doing. The number one thing that we have to do is to look at what the youth are doing right now in this moment and find the village within it. When we see them, we have to see the African village. And as difficult as it may be with certain things that are going on, we have to start being able to relate to them and show them, listen, what you're doing, though you may think it's new, this was done 1,000 years ago. And start creating the ties and the link in that way and feed that energy, as opposed to trying to get them to go back and to relive something that's already been done. I think that's very difficult, and it's pretty much a waste of time. Our youth who come forward are revived and reincarnated Egun. They are revived and reincarnated ancestors. So all we have to really do is remind them, highlight the fact that they're still doing the same actions that they did thousands of years ago. And it may be simple things. It may be the way that our young girls like to place their hands on their hips when they speak. Okay, this is something that you see in many traditional photos and always meant something. There's a meaning behind it. It may be the way that the young boys maybe even join gangs and things like that because they're looking for tribe. Or they're looking for nation. They're looking for inclusiveness in something that expresses their masculinity. And then I think it's very important for us to show them clearly, because these things are studied by the parasitic elite. So these things are studied by the greater society, and our expressions are studied. And then we have to start showing them how these divine expressions are being suppressed in everyday things that they may not be aware of. For instance, the sagging of the pants. Where young men, and now you see some of the young women doing it as well, where they'll have their pants way below their buttocks. Aside from how we may feel about it, aside from how it may look, I think one of the first things that we need to be able to acknowledge with our young men is that you've grown too comfortable in this land. You've grown so comfortable that you've positioned yourself on a dangerous street corner where stormtroopers i.e. the police, can come up at any time and you've positioned your body in a way where you can no longer even run or fight. You can't even carry a weapon on you with your pants that low. You know, so I think one of the key pieces is showing them that the things that they're currently doing, they have divinity to them, and show them as well what's behind the suppression of what they're supposed to be and who they're supposed to be. I think that's key.
Outstanding. And another thing I want to touch on is the fact that with African spirituality and the oracle system, I'm wondering, as we spoke earlier, concerning in the next 50 years of indigenous spirituality, I'm thinking with many coming through in the diaspora, mixing so much with Ifa. Just last week, I had a Babalawo, or priest, mixed in the myth of Jesus, the Ifa. And I'm saying, will Ifa in the diaspora, will it branch off into segments like your Christian churches, like your Baptist, your Methodist, Holiness? Will it branch off? I'm thinking about the future of it, because these are things, a lot of these things they are adding or putting into a sacredized, I put it that way, with Ifa. And my question is, will that have the tradition, weaken the tradition, or bring it out to something just completely different?
Well, first off, those things are already occurring. Already here in the diaspora, we do have branches of Ifa and branches of Orisha tradition that are not totally in alignment with our original expression of it. And what we typically find, there are certain groups of people who gravitate to those particular branches. Okay, so there already has been some degree of division, and obviously some degree of what one might even call perversion, or others might call adaptation and evolution of what we know to be Ifa and Orisha tradition. So I think we're already in that place as of now. Now, has it diluted what Ifa is? No, it hasn't diluted what Ifa is, because when they adapt and they convert things, they create something new anyway. Ifa still stands on its own. Ifa still maintains the power and the liberty that it always had. And in truth, the energies that have been created through Ifa, through the Odu, they are actually strengthened. Because if we were to only express ourselves through the staunch, stoic, and even purist traditional way of Ifa and Orisha tradition, we have a lot less people who are following the tradition. That's just the sad truth of it. So when people are able to include other elements, at least these names are still being said. Okay, so Oshun, Ochosi, or Dada, Oba, even if they express themselves and they are in environments and they are in places that may not properly mirror what their environment and place is supposed to be, the fact that they're being praised, the fact that energy is being put into them, the fact that that's going on, it sustains the liberty of these spirits that we know as to be Orisha. Because what's important is that they continue to be fed. That's why every year there are festivals for Orisha. There are festivals for Ifa. And these festivals are not just to enjoy and celebrate them, it's to feed them. Okay, so when we have all of these different offshoots and these off branches, though they may be doing things in a way that may be out of alignment with how they were done traditionally, these energies are still getting fed, which benefits everyone. Okay, so that's a very, very important thing that continues. As far as aligning Ifa with Jesus and things like that, I'm not necessarily against that if you can give me a reasonable and pragmatic explanation as to why you're doing that. I need to hear more than just, something basic, and that's for me personally. But it may draw someone to Ifa. Does it have the ability and the possibility of overshadowing in somebody's mind traditional systems and traditional spirituality? It certainly does. Whenever you mix like that and you use other things as a standard, sometimes you have people who speak about traditional spirituality, but then they'll always wrap it up with the Bible verse. And they'll say, and that's why God sent his son and he delivered us and da-da-da-da-da-da. But we're not negating our ancestors. But you certainly are, because you're now forcing everything that's presented to you by your ancestors. It has to be held to the reference and the standard of an alien religious system. And not to say that Christianity is alien to the African, it certainly isn't. But Euro-Christianity and its proportions and its perversions, and even the Bible as it was perverted, twisted, and mangled in 925 AD at the Council of Nicaea, that is certainly foreign to the African Exilic and the African cultural strain. So whenever you use that as your reference point, you certainly do overshadow the work of your ancestors, and within you and within the individual, yes, it does weaken it.
Outstanding. You really answered that question so prophetically. You really did. This is my last question to you, because I know Brother Wale Ifa, they have a question as well. It's concerning a governing body. It's the tradition, for the tradition to grow. And I know sometimes governing bodies tend to be political organizations, but is there actually going to eventually for Ifa to grow and to be sustained throughout the continent, throughout the globe? Will there be a governing body to sustain the organization?
Mm-hmm. Well, there are people who are already attempting to do that, and there are some who have established foundations and organizations. You have the World Ifa organization. If you go to Ile Ife, and so there is a central hub. But my personal feeling is that I wouldn't want to see a global Ifa organization, because organizations get infiltrated. So whenever you create something like that, you now have a whole new set of problems that you have to deal with. And the truth is, it's not necessary. This thing is going to spread regardless of identity group. And one of the things that we have to get out of is this mentality of joining. Okay, so someone creates a world organization, I need to join that. So now I'm identified by that world organization. But if I need something as an individual in order to take me to the next step of my evolution and my ascension, and it's against the bylaws of that organization, now I have a conflict. And it may create a hesitation in my actual spiritual work, which is what we do not want. So I think it's, in my opinion, in the same way I run my organization, or my order, which is really what I call it, you come in, you get what you need to get, and you go. Now, if you want to continue to support and be a part and help those who are coming up behind you, that's fine. But it's certainly not something that can be infiltrated easily, and even if it is, there's not much a person would be able to do. I think it's very important when we speak about the Pan-African struggle and we speak about the Pan-African thought and calculation and philosophy, that we understand that the political systems that currently exist, as well as governmental structures and organizational structures, are also foreign to us. That's why 9 times out of 10 they do not work for us. So when we start establishing things, or when we start getting some money, or we do things, we immediately start saying, okay, we need to rival the oppressive culture. We need to have our own banks. We need to have our own stores. We need to have this, that. And that may not necessarily speak to our physiognomy. That may not necessarily speak to our spiritual makeup, to our biological makeup, as far as what we relate to the most and what works for us the best. A susu would be better than a bank. We had a giant collective susu. If we had a conference that happened once a year or twice a year globally, if we were able to meet someone somewhere, just like the mythical powers that be, when we speak about the Bilderberg conference, with a quote-unquote Illuminati, which they're not Illuminati, we're the Illuminati. were the ones with the light. If we had something like that, and everyone was able to see, Khan were able to come, the Sangoma were able to come, and everyone was able to come there, that would actually take us much further. And that would be more in alignment with what we did traditionally when we would all meet in Kemet. And information would be shared, and it would be valued and respected to the point that even other people's perspectives from other regions would be carved on the temple's walls, even if that wasn't the teaching of Kemet. That would be more valuable for us than an organization.
All right, thank you for that, Chief Jugna Hoodoo and Voodoo. We're going to now go into our announcements, and then we will be right back. Greetings, one and all, and thank you for listening to ANU Asafo this Sunday. I am now bringing you the ANU Nation announcements on this beautiful segment of ANU Asafo. We want to first thank you for tuning in once again and being a supporter and participant in this journey of the Asafo as dictated and governed by our ancestral call. We would also like to thank our Chief Jugna, Hoodoo ANU of the ANU Spiritual Order and Head Instructor of the Hoodoo House Spiritual Center for his continued guidance and support. Please tune in next week as we bring our fellow Mfundi to join us on ANU Asafo. We will have an open panel discussion on the topics of divination, African spirituality, and Pan Afrakanism. If you are currently an Mfundi in the ANU Spiritual Order and you would like to participate on the show on September 29th, please respond to the link on the ANU Spiritual Training Facebook page or email omilade at omilade@saduluhouse.com. That is SADULUHOUSE.com. And now for ANU Asafo's upcoming show. On October 6th, we have the stellar Oba and Proof, and on October 13th, we have the amazing Kwesi Ra Nahim Bata Akan, both joining us to share their knowledge and discuss African spirituality. On October 20th, we have the incomparable Mwalimu Baruti, author of Complementarity and also the author of Homosexuality and Effeminization of African Males, joining us to discuss homosexuality in traditional African religious settings. The Sundays in October are sure to be a special treat. Also, in other happenings, on September 28th, please join us and our Chief Jugna Hoodoo ANU at the annual Pagan Pride Festival at Battery Park in New York, New York. He will be speaking around 1 p.m. on the topic of self-actualization using the Orisha energy. This is an opportunity for you to meet some of your fellow Mfundi, for those of you who are registered in the ANU spiritual training. Please join us. And that has been the ANU Nation announcement. And now, back to our broadcast.
I was just letting the audience know we are 12 minutes to the hour, and we're sitting with Hoodoo ANU, and you're with the ANU Asafo show with brothers Ifawumi Oshundeli and Wole Ifa, and of course our sister Omilade, who is our all-around person. That was a great set of announcements, sister.
Thank you. Okay, so Wole, it looks like you can continue on with your line of questioning.
Okay, sounds good. Hoodoo, we've gotten a lot of feedback from a number of different groups, people in the Pan-African world dealing with foodways, dealing with art. We have a lot of people interested, and of course, it is the African way that spirituality is merged within the lifestyle of the community. What role what is the importance of foodways, for instance, in Pan-African spiritual evolution for the average person today?
Mm-hmm. You're speaking about food, what we ingest, our eating patterns.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's actually step one. When you're coming into consciousness or you're trying to reclaim tradition, the first thing you need to do is to monitor, pay attention, and look at what you're ingesting, what you're putting inside of your body. This affects your ashe because it goes right into your blood. This affects your cognitive abilities, and we have to understand that outside of home, the society structure and the social structure that has been established does not mirror our home. Outside of that, we have a lot of things that have been instituted within our eating patterns as well as our social and cultural patterns that are meant to keep us on lockdown. From the cell phones to the food coloring dye to the fructose, all these things that are cancer causing. We have a lot of foods that are neurodisruptors, many foods that are carcinogenic. So what happens is now when you have these physical breakdowns, you lose a lot of your cognitive ability. And we cannot disassociate our cognitive abilities from our spiritual psychology. We have spiritual psychology where our spirit has an actual brain and CPU of its own, but then we also have our flesh brain, or what we call in Yoruba our Oreo Day. Now that flesh brain acts as a gateway to your spiritual understanding. That's why when you first encounter someone, you're trying to teach them something, you're speaking to them and you're trying to reason with their mind. Not to say that you're not also sending them a certain amount of spiritual energy, but you're really hoping that their mind opens up. Now, the food that we eat directly affects that. Not only that, if you cannot take care of your food, clothing, and shelter, then it affects you in a spiritual sense because you can feel that lack of spiritual liberty. You can feel it. There's a certain feeling you have when you grow your own food and you eat the food that you grow, or if you have the ability or have built your own shelter or built your own home, or you can cultivate your own land, or even make your own clothes, things like that. This opens up a whole different spiritual knowing and spirituality that you don't have if you know you're a slave to someone else's diet recommendation. And I'm going to use the word diet on purpose because we asked about foodways. So these things are step one. When you want to come into consciousness and you want to figure out what to do first start eating right. That's number one. That's why when you have other cultures, when they come into a community, or some might even say invade a community, the first thing they do is they set up their own markets. They don't go to your market. When they have their celebrations and they have their ceremonies, they don't go to your store for catering. They go to themselves because they know that their food has maybe evolution over time, works with their anatomy and keeps them sharp, keeps them clear, keeps them strong. That's why we have a root chakra. The root chakra reminds us that our first reality that we have to deal with is our situational and physical reality. If you don't have that correct, you can't focus on meditating and raising your chakras up to your crown chakra if you're not feeling right. If you have mucus, if you're congested, if you're impacted, and a whole bunch of other issues that come with that. So food is priority number one, followed by education.
Thank you for that. I don't want to take up all the time. We want to try to get some other questions in, but we're coming up on the 12-minute mark left in this segment. I want to ask another quick one, and then we'll see if something is in the queue. Haru, you spoke about dealing with the youth. The youth, and I call them the baggy pants youth. Talk about trying to embrace them and recognizing that they are the reincarnations of the ancestors. So they know, but it seems like we need to reach out to embrace. That brings us into a little sticky wicket where there are a lot of people who feel that in the Ifa and other types of Pan-African spiritual traditions, we don't recruit. They come to us. We shouldn't go to them. That brings us to the notion of traditions. ancient traditions and modern times, modern situations. You've spoken on this quite a bit. Please share with us a bit of what is the importance of tradition, and when should we seek to hold it, and when is it necessary to advance it?
Tradition establishes community, okay, just as rituals do. Without tradition and ritual, there is no community. It doesn't even exist. That is the genesis or the burgeoning of bringing forth your own community. Okay, so tradition is vital. It's not only vital for that, but also because there have already been calculations and negotiations made with your physical body in the natural environment by your ancestors, which have explained to the natural environment what your body needs, what your spiritual psychology needs, what your whole anatomy, your bio-spiritual anatomy needs. And by following those traditions, or at least understanding those traditions, you understand nature's response. Okay, so when tradition says we do this at a certain night, or we wear these type of fabrics, we're not going to blend and mix fabrics, it's because maybe our body, our skin responds to it a certain way. Okay, so that goes from your food patterns, that goes from what your entertainment typically has been, your way of generating wealth has been, your marital systems. There are things that work for us and there are things that do not work for us. And many of these things have been calculated before. Now, that doesn't mean that our traditions should not be held to scrutiny. We should always, none of our elders, none of our quote-unquote leaders, if we want to claim any, should ever be held beyond scrutinizing eye. That's what the Sankofa concept brings to us. It's go back and fetch it, but not just go back and fetch it because it's old, not just grab it because it's African, not just grab it because it's tradition, but go back and look at it as you're moving forward and determine its relevancy in your march forward. The African thought, the African Asilic at its core and at its base is the Asilic in the thought and the culture of engineering. Africans were always engineering and adaptive people. Some might say in this diaspora, we're too adaptive. We're too ready. We're too accommodating of things that do not work. We'll eat anything. We'll go to anyone's church. We'll whisper about our own traditions. When we speak about recruiting in Ifa, recruiting in Orisha, if we go out to a public place and we're asked to give a prayer, we'll say words that are not a part of our tradition so everyone can be comfortable. Meanwhile, no one else does that. You know, the Muslims who come up or the Hebrews who come up, no one else feels like they need to do that except for us. We have to tuck our lekes in. We have to whisper when we greet each other or give each other nods. Like this is like we're in Cuba, this is the 40s. You know, so I think it's important to look back at where we've come from, but take a keen eye on where we're at now and what's necessary and what's not necessary. In terms of recruiting and reaching out to the youth, I don't really advise reaching out to them with Ifa or with Orisha directly. I advise reaching out to them with the advice, the calculations, and the beautiful mind that Ifa has given you. Okay, so when you start looking at some of the situations that our people are in and you're able to consistently provide solutions, you're able to consistently provide diplomatic services and reasoning services, people will then ask, well, what is it that you do? What is it that you have that keeps you at this place where you have this level of wisdom, or you're able to manifest certain things in your life? And then that is your opening to bring that. You know, your best outreach is example. Your best outreach is standing strong on the convictions of your purpose and the convictions of your spiritual asilic and your cultural asilic. That's the best outreach. But as far as going out, you'll get your hand chopped off like that. Those who are hungry and those who are thirsty will draw themselves nigh to your light. And those who are not, just let them go by the wayside. We're not here to save everyone. We're not even here to save anyone. There are those who are astral travelers and astral mates that you meet, and they may live in your area. And they'll come to you and say, hey, I'm interested. You look like you would know about this. That's happened to me hundreds of times. People just walked up to me and said, oh, you look like somebody who would know about this. And they started asking me about Bible verses. You know anything about that? Or about a Rastafarian culture? Or different things like that, which open up the door to a greater conversation. So I think it's important that we don't become those preaching, talking heads of our tradition, but we show the power of the tradition in our way and in our walk. Our spiritual systems and our religions can remain a very private thing and only be shared with those who show proper reverence for them.
Wow, that's incredible. It's the top of the hour, ANU. We all thank you very much for the information you've shared. We ask you to decide, is there anything you want to touch on in this remaining time that we haven't touched on? There are a lot of questions and interest about a bunch of things, particularly your take on initiations. But whatever you feel to chat on, please take this last 5 minutes and enlighten us further.
Okay. Well, I'm going to say this initially. I actually think we may have a little bit more time than we originally worked out. But in terms of my take on things, it kind of goes back to your last question, which I think is important for people to keep in mind, and that's we don't want to lose our mind in our tradition. We don't want to go insane. And that insanity is represented by a religious, fanatical, dogmatic approach and expression of what we like to call African tradition. We have to always keep in mind that we are a global people. We existed here on the planet in non-physical form billions of years ago before the physical came forth. When you hear about places like Atlantis and Lemuria and the island, you know, where we hear again Isle or I, okay, and that I or island falling into the sea. What this represented was the formulation of the physical body coming from the third eye or the first eye, when we began to collapse into ourselves and manifest ourselves as physical beings. Okay, this was even before what we call the Yoruba culture, or even a place known as Nigeria. Okay, so it's important for us to understand that we don't have to localize ourselves to any one tradition or even any one region. We have the entire world to look at as a menu and pick from, because we've influenced the entire world consciousness. You know, not just that it started in Africa or the realm that we know as Afri or Africa. It didn't just start there, but globally we spread our influence throughout the globe, way before certain people arrived. I think it's also even important to understand this fact. For those who preach and desire an all-inclusive doctrine based on certain calculations and study that we've done or that they've done in terms of how we should regard our global neighbors, it's important for you to study history and to understand that when some of these statements were made, certain people didn't even exist on the planet yet. Our greatest and most vicious enemies did not even exist on the planet when certain comments and statements were made by our Egun. Okay, so you have to understand, whenever you do any type of study, you have to learn the time dispensation. Who's being spoken to? Who's doing the speaking? What's going on at that time? Who's living on the planet? What being has not even been created yet? So once that happens, the rules change. Once a new factor or element is introduced into the world pool, things have to change. Our approach has to change to that. And a wonderful example of that, if you watch the series Saga Zulu and see how he responded to invasion of his land, understanding that things are changing and our formulations, our methods, and our doctrine for warfare and community building has to change along with it. So I think that's very important for people to understand that this is an evolving culture. You don't have to go back and wear exactly what your ancestors wore in order to be them, or eat what they ate exactly to be them. It's important to study that and to honor it, but also to know where we need to move to next. Very similar to what Brother Ifawumi said last show about there being celebrations and ceremonies in the Gullah and people coming dressed as enslaved Africans. If you look at much of the Orisha communities and you look at the garments that are worn, especially by the women, they're basically slave outfits, just in white. So these are things that we need to start looking at and examining and determining, is this really what we did before? Considering we knew that all the layering of all these clothes actually brought sickness, and we always wanted to interact with our physical environment by allowing our skin to be out. Is this what we really did in our sacred times? Is this how we danced? Is this how we spoke? Is this how we dressed? So that's a part of that evolution. And that evolution comes from reclaiming the African mind, meditation, thinking, your reading, going back into those Akashic records is more valuable than studying someone's historical book and trying to emulate that to the people. Ashe.
Sister Omilade, is there anyone in the queue at this moment?
Yes, I'm here. Hi.
Okay, we have any questions over there? If not, I have another.
Yes, my name is Roxana, and I have a question about hoodoo work. If I would like to have to get a full-time position in my company, not in my company. I work for the company as a part-timer, and I would like to get a full-time position. I was passed over 3 times only this summer. Is there anything that I can do to help me to get the full-time position that will be coming soon?
Mm-hmm. Okay, you have to work with Oya. Right? Huh? Oya is telling you, Oya. Remember that Oya is the supplanter of power. Okay, so what that means, Oya is in charge of someone having something and it being given to you. Like a position, someone leaving, taking another job, there being a position open, it's yours now. Okay, but the first thing that you need to recognize is that, man's rejection is oftentimes God's protection. Okay, so a lot of times when we're aiming and we're shooting towards something, we have to be clear on, are we being protected from something? Is it blockage or is it actual protection? Okay, so that's something that you might want to do a little meditation on. But now, coming back to the Oya piece, one of the things that you want to begin to work with, and you can use basic things. You can use incense, for instance. And for this particular piece, I want you to use more visualization. Okay, and let's say if you have incense, you see the way incense swirls sometimes, like if you burn a stick of it, you see it kind of the thick, gray, smoke. I want you to start picturing winds going through that place, that job that you're working at. So you're going to have the incense. It's going to be swirling. Incense swirls. What I want you to do is picture, I want you to try to take your mind, and I want you to shake that incense as you see it. So you're going to be commanding, this is called psychotelekinesis. You're going to be commanding the incense, which is wind, with your mind. Mm-hmm. So eventually, I want you to start visualizing the incense going like in a tornado. And you're going to see it's going to start swirling. It's going to start going around. Okay? That's going to be your evidence that Oya has showed up. Okay? Now, as you're doing this, you're just going to be whispering to yourself, Oya G-O. Oya G-O. Oya G-O. Oya G-O. Oya G-O. Okay? You're just going to be whispering that to yourself while you're visualizing this wind coming around this incense and going into like a hurricane, like a tornado. Okay? And then I want you to visualize that going to that place that you work at and mixing things up, mixing everything up so that a position is made for you. Okay? So that everything is set straight so that the position is made for you. It's not just going to be a situation where the job says, you know what, we're going to make you full-time. It's not going to be that. It's going to be a place made that you can now step into. Okay? So you do this. I would advise you to do it every single day until you get that position. But if you can't do it every single day, at least, at minimal, do it once every 3 days. Okay? and you put yourself a glass of brandy. Okay? You're going to have a glass of brandy right there while you're doing it. Okay? And leave that brandy out. Okay? Now, what you'll also do after every 3-day cycle, I want you to take that brandy, put it in a little bottle, or, you know, if you can get like an old glass bottle with a cap on it, and I want you to pour it outside your job. You need to keep focusing until you see it swirl. Once you see it swirl, you know you got it. Oh, yeah, it's there.
Great. Sounds like success being made.
Yes.
Excellent questioner. Sister Omi Lade, is there anyone else in the queue?
There is no one else in the queue at this time.
Well, we'll turn it back over to Haru to wrap up this great information that you've been giving us. All kinds of things. We look forward to your return, and we want to be able to announce it more in advance. So I apologize to the listening audience for not giving more people an opportunity to ask questions. Haru?
Not a problem. Okay, one of the pieces of advice that I want to give to anyone who may be listening or maybe in the archives is that when you're doing spiritual work or you're in a situation, sometimes we have situations where we have to respond to the immediacy. So we have to go into a certain steps of what one might call hoodoo or rituals. But what you really want to do is daily find practical ways in your living to turn them into a spiritual practice. So that way, when situations come up, you're not now scrambling to figure out what to do. And what I mean by that, for instance, one might open a window every day in their home and burn maybe a half a stick of incense or a third of a stick of incense and give that as an offering to the spirit of the wind or to the spirit of divine breath or to especially your Egun, especially if you can do it when you have sunlight coming in. Okay, sunlight brings transmissions from the ancestral realm. So if you can do little things like that, let's say if it's a daily thing. Now, of course, you may already do that to give a good scent into your home. But if you can start doing small things, when you take your shower or when you take your bath, you know, you pray or you affirm to the spirits of water. You affirm to Mami Wata. You affirm to Olokun. You affirm to Oshun. You affirm to Yemoja. And you seek to have conversations with them. So when you're interacting with certain elements or certain things throughout your day, try to get yourself into a place where you turn them into rituals. When you get ready to eat, you know, you give honor to the spirit of Onile, which is the earth. Onile means the earth, or the owner of the earth, which is also an Orisha. It's not spoken about much. But whatever you're eating came from the earth, whether it's a meat product or a vegetable product, it still came from the earth. So that gives you a moment to just focus on the energy of an Onile, even if it's for 30 seconds or for 15 seconds. So what you want to start doing is start doing things on a very basic level where you basically are spiritualizing or spiritizing your lifestyle. So everything, and it doesn't have to be a loud proclamation. From the colors that you pick to paint your rooms, the colors that you pick to wear on, even down to the colors of the undergarments that you choose to wear on that day. You want to start spiritizing things in a way so that your life becomes a constant, consistent ritual. So I would give that as an advice for anyone listening, and it's for looking for a way to jump in and looking for a way to kind of make their spiritual walk or their spiritual life more effective and more real and more purposeful. As you're dealing with Pan African religion or Pan African spirituality, what you'll begin to understand is that this is how our ancestors did everything. Everything down to what they wore, to how they walked, to how they greeted to each other was a negotiation and a praising of the divine environment. Everything. There was no fodder. There was no wasted words. There were no wasted colors. There were no wasted jewelry. Even down to what they named their children, what they named their leaders, what they named their homes. Everything had a divine purpose and message in it. That's why there was no traditional African religion. It doesn't exist. Those of us in the diaspora are trying to create religion based off of what our ancestors did as culture and as lifestyle. So what you basically want to do is turn your culture and your personal lifestyle into into an instrument that's so potently divine that people will look at you and want to study you and turn a religion out of that, such as a Bible or a Quran. Okay? These are things that was a person's lifestyle. So when he said, okay, pray 5 times a day, do you really need to pray 5 times a day? No. But you're told to pray 5 times a day just to keep you in check, because you haven't spiritualized your life enough that you have to constantly be reminded of speaking to that higher person or that higher consciousness by making salat, which of course originally was singing. We hear it now as praying, but salat means to sing, and what you're doing is you're singing into your heart chakra. You're enlivening your heart chakra 5 times a day, Oshun's number, and you're singing into it, which raises up your own vibration. Well, what if you just surrounded yourself with invigorating and exciting music that did the same thing? So I would say my suggestion, would be to spiritualize your life in a very strong way, so your culture becomes so powerful, your personal culture within your home, that it resembles a religion.
Ashe, ashe,
Ashe, ashe, outstanding. There's so much to take in.
So much.
Too much to take in. There's too much to take in.
And I just wanted to, while thanking you for this, let people know that while your book, Grasping the Roots of Divine Power, gets so much attention, that's not the only book you published. In fact, you have solutions for dysfunctional family relationships, subtitled Healing and Avoiding the Aftermath of Cross-Cultural Unions and Suicidal Families. So we appreciate you talking about the family dynamic and how the system works, and we want people to know that you are familiar with what you're talking about. You're not just whistling. So I have a question. Brother Ifawumi, do you have a question right now? Because I have a burning question.
I'll go right ahead, Brother Wale.
Okay. Haru Yuya, I respect the notion of the power of thinking, positive thinking and negative thinking, to manifest things in one's life. However, as a writer of fiction, sometimes my stories and my characters speak to me, and I write some suspense thrillers, and it's not all good, the things they say. So I was just noticing that there is a lot of negativity, negative thoughts going through my consciousness, and even though I'm putting it in the word, it concerns me, because I try to focus on being positive, recognizing the dualism of up and down, left and right, and dark and light. But is that problematic? Thinking the negative thoughts, even creatively?
No, that's not problematic at all. It's important to understand a couple of things. Number one, thoughts are things, literally. Scientists have confirmed that whenever we have a thought, a cell is created. Okay, so a physical cell that they can take out and look under a microscope. So whenever you have a thought, something physically is created. Now, we know before that there is a physical creation, there's a spiritual creation. So your thoughts are also spirits who decide in an instant to manifest themselves as a physical body. And then cells can multiply, and they become bigger, and they can become bigger and bigger. But the thing is, your thoughts that are leaning and have an inclination towards your evolution of a higher and stronger frequency than those that are not. Now, this has been shown on spectrographs with people when they studied actual brain waves. Okay, so you don't necessarily have to be afraid because I'm having negative thoughts, are these things going to take over my life? Because the counterbalance will always be your thoughts that are leading to the expansion, the growth, and the maturation of your brain, of your mind, and of your spirit. Those are always going to overshadow the other one. But those things coming forth, those thought forms coming out, they're looking for a name. They're looking for someone to release them. So you can decide to turn your brain into a graveyard. You can say, you know what, I'm going to suppress you guys. I'm never going to let you out until the day I die. And your brain now becomes a graveyard, and then your progeny or anyone else in your family line, they now say, okay, no problem, the next baby that comes out will come out with it. no problem. Or you can give birth to them through your creation. Now, just like we use the word for the Most High, the Creator, when we create things, we become the Creator. So you can create these negative thought forms or these divergent thought forms, but that's a way of releasing them from where they currently are and allowing them to go out into society or into the world and do what they do, which is usually die off. If you look at even the movie Inception, you have certain scenes in there with the main character, one of them being Leonardo DiCaprio. He was being chased by this defense squad that was put in one of the other characters' brain. Well, that defense squad that was established in the brain, those are the negative thoughts. Those are the thoughts that say, you know what, you're not going to go to the next level. We're going to chase you and block you to keep you from going. So your job is to say, okay, I have to release you because any obstacle or blockage is nothing but a repressed thought form that needs to be released. And the truth is, a repressed thought form are those beings that live on the planet without souls. They only exist as thought forms. They're temporal. They don't last. That's why if you look at even certain times in history, in human history, or I should say not human history, mankind's history, you find certain dispensations and times where entire groups of people were going to be wiped out by their own disease, not by anything else, but like the Black Plague, just their own disease. And then there was someone who came along and revived them, whether it was the Moors or whether it was Squanto with the Pilgrims, when they were getting ready to expire, they couldn't take the winters here. These were people who may have been someone's thought form, who came through a certain way, and as nature would have it, or the divine would have it, they would naturally just die out until some happy-go-lucky native decided to revive them. So I say to you with that question, allow the thought forms to express themselves and go out, and then give them no other food. Let them find their own meal. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Ashe Moyuba Aruyuya Asanu, Chief Jegna of the ANU Nation, Hoodoo and leader of Sedulu House, and a number of other things, including ANU Publishing, and the author of the famed book Grasping the Root of Divine Power, and also Solutions for Dysfunctional Family Relationships, which will be getting more and more attention as our situation so neatly, so clearly requires some of the information. And I also wanted to bring attention to the newest book from the ANU Publishing Company, and that's called Natural Hair for Young Women by Sister Felicia Tarael Anu. And this book, Natural Hair for Young Women, is the first in a series which provides a holistic approach to natural hair for teenagers. This book not only addresses the practical conceptions of natural hair care, but more importantly provides guidance for young women to reclaim control over their minds, bodies, and spirits. So, Haru Yuya Asan Anu, your works are it's enriching all of us in so many ways, and we just want to thank you here at ANU Asafo for your visit, and we want to ask you to please come back soon. Brother Ifawumi, or do you have any closing words?
Yes. Thank you so much, Brother Wale. Yes, Chief Yuya. Outstanding job you did today. Thank you for feeding us today. Yeah, that was a meal. That was a Sunday meal. It was better than a bucket of chicken. Although I don't eat meat. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the answers to our questions. You really have given us the clarity. There will be more because you're coming back to the show. We really appreciate you here on ANU Asafo.
Ashe. And of course, we want to thank the listeners here this week and every week. Meet us here on Sunday. And remember to catch Foundational Fridays on our parent network, enlightenment, and transformation. With that, and bye from everyone, including Sister Omilade. See you next week.
Adabo.
We thank you for your listening support and urge you to become an active participating member. For all those listening, if you'd like to gain a clearer and fundamental understanding of the ANU Order, be sure to pick up the book, Grasping the Root of Divine Power. To find out how you can become a student and member of the ANU Spiritual Order, please visit us at saduluhouse.com. That is saduluhouse.com. Also, if you would like spiritual readings and assistance in your life as it pertains to your spiritual well-being and your divine purpose, please use the contact and scheduling forms to schedule a consultation with our Chief Jegna, Haru Yuya Asan Anu. Those forms are located at orishareligion.com. That is orishareligion.com, as well as are at saduluhouse.com. Also, sign up for the ANU newsletter for the latest happenings in the ANU community. The newsletter can be found by going to anunation.org. That is ANUNATION.org. If you'd like to become an on-air guest or sponsor on ANU Asafo or any of our other broadcasts, please be sure to contact us at questions@anunation.org. That is the word questions@anunation.org. Thank you for your continued support, and be well.
Hello and welcome to ANU Asafo. Brother Wole is here, and with me is my crew, Brother Ifawumi and Sister Omilade. Welcome to ANU Asafo. Here is our African pledge. We are African people. We will remember the humanity, glory, and suffering of our ancestors. We will honor the struggles of our elders. We will strive to bring new values and new life to our people. We will have peace, harmony, and love among ourselves, and we will be loving, sharing, and creative. We will work, study, and listen so we may learn so that we may teach. We will cultivate self-reliance, and we will raise many children. We'll have discipline, patience, devotion, and courage. We will live as models to provide new direction for our people. Free and self-determining, we are an African people, and we will win. Hotep. This is Brother Ifawumi. We will talk about what's on the agenda today, and that includes a cultural spotlight on the Southern Hoodoo roots and Voodoo traditions. Brother Ifawumi is going to lead us in that. We're going to talk about divination within our segment this morning on...
And this love is for freedom, it's growing stronger each day. Bring down the power of love, I say. The power of love, I say, is the greatest power. Stop hell and damnation. Bring down the power. Love to heal a nation. So rejoice in a rhythm of celebration. Come on. Lift your voice with a feeling of satisfaction as one. And let we move with a purpose, all freedom lovers. Hold tight. Stepping out of the darkness with one direction inside. Bring down the power of love, I say. The power of love, I say, is the greatest power. Stop hell and damnation. Love to heal a nation. Bring down the power of love, I say. The power of love, I say. Stop hell and damnation.
And, well, it's actually this afternoon, 5 minutes in New Orleans, our segment on divination. We are hoping that Brother Ifawumi, he's in South Carolina, and they're having Oya has come to visit, and they're having tremendous weather there, and it's expected for the next 3 days. But we're going to proceed and hope that he continues to try to recall in and get a good connection. But most of all, we are pleased and privileged today to be sitting down with the Chief Jegna of the ANU Nation and Sedulu House. And that, of course, is Haruya Asan Anu. He will be taking calls, questions from students as well as non-students who have written and sent the questions in by way of the Sedulu House .com website. But also, people can call in. I understand the number is 347-9. I'm going to check that number because I don't want to give the wrong one. But we've had that happen before. But before we go any further, there's been some things happening in the news recently. And Brother Ifa Wumi and I were up late into the night last night considering if we should just move along with the program as was planned, or if we needed to make at least a recognition, if not a statement or announcement, about these shootings and what they may mean to our immediate future as a nation, but particularly as an Ifa Orisha Pan African spirituality based community. Just some of the shootings involved. Recently, according to Tracy Connor, who's a staff writer at the NBC News, recently an 11-year-old New Orleans girl rocking her baby cousin to sleep was killed in a triple shooting in her house, sitting in her house watching TV Monday night. Now, this had happened while the city is still reeling from the murder of a one-year-old gunned down in her babysitter's arms only 4 days earlier, and that was last week. New Orleans is definitely a killing field. In this latest violence, gunmen reportedly started shooting inside of a home where at least 4 young children were in bed shortly after midnight, firing more than a dozen bullets. That's what's going on nightly in New Orleans. And in Chicago, the Chicago Tribune reports at least 23 people were shot, including 3 fatally, in attacks in Chicago early this morning and Thursday night. This is what authorities have said. Now, during a single shooting Thursday night at about 10:15 p.m., in the backyard, in the back of the Yards neighborhood, 13 people, including a 3-year-old boy, were shot in Cornell Square Park. Now, this has been getting a lot of press recently, probably basically because of the intent of the function. It was intended to help create harmony in a gang-infested area between two of the...
Bring down the power of love, I say. Bring down the power. The power of love, I say, is the greatest power. Stop hell and damnation. Bring down the power. Love to heal a nation is the greatest power. Destruction is blowing over this land. And now the earth is trembling with man's oppression of man. Now the time come to sit down and rediscover what's life. Show the world the true meaning of real love power. Not strife. Bring down the power of love, I say. The power of love, I say, is the greatest power. Stop hell and damnation. Love to heal a nation. Put a hand on the fire and cleanse the wicked. Right now. All of them who does worship, greed and vanity must bow. Unity is the banner, so come together.